Time is money, implementing a capability-based poverty measure. When you Google what does poverty mean, the dictionary definition is the state of one who lacks a usual or socially acceptable amount of money or material possessions. However, this definition leaves room for interpretation. Poverty makes us wonder how people are doing. Are they getting enough? Enough of what? Several philosophers, researchers, and professors have attempted to answer these questions and provide a reformed poverty measure that helps people achieve a life compatible with inherent human dignity. Currently, the United States is using the official poverty measure to determine how people are doing. The measure only looks at gross annual pre-tax income.
For us, low income is a small fraction of what poverty means. Poverty should be defined by whether or not someone is living a dignified life with the necessary essential capabilities and freedom. Due to the deep connection between income and capabilities in modern society, we advocate for a poverty measure similar to the supplemental poverty measure, which has a more holistic view, taking into account near cash and non-cash benefits. We think it should be coupled with health, social, and political measures that gauge if people are doing okay.
A measurement solely based on pre-tax income has its shortcomings. Pre-tax income as the base measurement for poverty can cause the extent of deprivation to be either over-exaggerated or underestimated since key sources of wealth are being excluded. When a measurement excludes non-cash benefits such as SNAP or other in-kind benefits like subsidized housing and Medicaid, the poverty measure will make people seem worse off than they actually are. Even if someone's income on paper says they are living below the poverty line, that may not be true since it is plausible they are receiving benefits that could add to their income. We agree with Iceland's argument that using income as a measurement of poverty is flawed. In his book, Iceland says that gross cash income inadequately captures the amount of money people have at their disposal to meet economic needs. Although he recognizes the OPM as an absolute measure that is easy to understand, he acknowledges it is a dated measure in which the thresholds aren't precise. To address these issues, he advocates for a quasi-relative measure. A quasi-relative measure combines an absolute measure and a relative measure. This concept aims to measure poverty in relation to the acquisition of basic goods and in terms of social exclusion. Although the SPM makes impressive adjustments to create a more accurate measurement of poverty, it has some shortcomings. For instance, even if you fall below the poverty line, that doesn't necessarily mean you will qualify for all the federal benefits.
Similar to Iceland, Sen also criticizes using income as a determining factor of whether someone is living in poverty or not. Instead, Sen advocates that we should consider income in terms of whether it is enough to satisfy essential capabilities. Sen's work brings up valid concerns that we feel are central in our quest to define poverty. Sen calls for a poverty measure that doesn't just look at dollars in pockets, but rather if someone is able to satisfy basic functionings. Functionings are someone's actual beings and doings. For instance, functionings involve whether someone is able to go to school so that they can participate in their community and learn how to have political control in their environment. Like Sen, we care about political, social, and health functionings because not only do they give us a more accurate understanding of how people are doing, but also they are crucial in determining a dignified life.
In Nussbaum's work, she outlines 10 central capabilities that satisfy an efficient level of affiliation necessary for a dignified life. By affiliation, we mean being able to be treated as a dignified being whose worth is equal to that of others. However, it is important to acknowledge that a person doesn't need to have every social affiliation to be dignified. Aligning with Nussbaum's beliefs, we agree that every person should at least be above a certain threshold of combined capabilities in the context of possessing a substantial amount of freedom to choose and act. Combined capabilities refer to combining internal capabilities, such as developed traits and abilities that one establishes through interaction with their social, economic, and political environment, and external context for choice. You need to have the internal capabilities and external context to exercise your freedom. For instance, if there's an election occurring and someone isn't allowed to be educated, then they lack the capability of literacy and knowledge of understanding what's at stake in a political election. This situation involves both internal capabilities and external context because the person's lack of internal capabilities results from their oppression, which is their external context. Since internal capabilities are vital in promoting human capabilities that honor a person's lifestyle choices, we believe that the capabilities approach can be a sufficient measure in informing whether people are doing okay. Although ideally all citizens would satisfy or be above the threshold for the 10 capabilities Nussbaum lists, we acknowledge that it's an idealistic approach and not entirely attainable. Many argue that Nussbaum's list has a few shortcomings. Since she offers a specific list, some believe that its uniform format lacks flexibility and imposes one certain conception of the good onto people. In other words, the list of 10 capabilities doesn't fit with everyone's lifestyle, and the threshold for poverty can vary from culture to culture. Another fallback to Nussbaum's capabilities list is the issue of tragic choice. Some of the capabilities contradict each other, such as life versus bodily integrity. This leaves people choosing to prioritize some over others, especially when some of these capabilities have a vital role in removing a corrosive disadvantage. However, the overall benefit outweighs the fallback, since the capabilities list could help developing nations focus on promoting a particular capability. Also, Nussbaum worries that if there wasn't a list that spells out what people need to have a dignified life, then that leaves room for oppressive leaders to take advantage. Essentially, with the capabilities approach, you don't have to do these things to live a dignified life, but you need to be able to do them. Thus, we have given priority to capabilities that promote political, health, and social measures.
In combination with Nussbaum, Sen's writings offer a perspective on why it is important to live a dignified life. One of the pinnacles of this course is that we believe people matter. Thus, if we matter, then our functionings matter as well, which refers to the various things people manage to do or be in leading a dignified life. Since these functionings are beings and doings, they can allow people to accomplish their political, social, and health central capabilities that we find vital. Sen claims that your life is more dignified when you make your own choices because well-being and freedom are crucial for your dignity. We have to respect those choices even if they don't necessarily align with the general conception of the good. Sen gives an example of this when he mentions how fasting isn't starving, but instead it is starving through rejecting the option to eat. In this scenario, the person has the capability to eat but instead chooses not to. Even if this choice is not most people's idea of a good choice, we still have to respect it because it was made with dignity. Therefore, we believe it is important to recognize the difference between people who have the capability to choose but not to exercise it versus the people who cannot make a choice because they do not have the capability. This is an important part of what being impoverished means to us. Some viewers may not be fully convinced about the importance of dignity, so here is a scenario that brings it to life. For example, imagine a person who is making $7.25 an hour, but has to work 365 days a year and is not allowed any vacation or sick days. We may ask, is this a dignified life? Although their annual pre-tax income is technically above the poverty threshold, they are giving up some of their capabilities and, most importantly, freedom. They're giving up their ability to have some time for play, rest, and more by working constantly. Even though this person may not be making enough money to survive, they are not living a dignified life. One researcher that presents an argument contrary to our approach to poverty is Robert Rector. His implicit definition of poverty focuses on basic needs and material living conditions. Rector has a very extreme material deprivation definition of poverty. He believes poverty is a lack of sufficient food, clothing, shelter, and utilities. In his article, Rector suggests that if a family has amenities such as a refrigerator or cable, then they must not be at the very bottom of the poverty threshold. However, from amenities data, we cannot determine how people are doing. We don't know any of their capabilities just based on whether they have air conditioning and a laundry machine. We don't know how much a family has sacrificed to have access to a refrigerator or if they have the means to put foods in it. Our argument is that Rector's approach to poverty can be very misleading and inaccurate. Material things do not tell us how life is going or if people have enough. For Rector, poverty is just meeting the bare minimum of survival. However, since we advocate for a capabilities approach, we value people's dignity. Seeing how many dollars there are in people's pockets doesn't actually give us an accurate measure of how people are doing. Thus, we've developed a measurement that involves the SPM coupled with health, social, and political measures that inform us if people are doing okay. In order to indicate whether people are meeting social and political capabilities, we have decided the best way to measure this would be through sample surveys and data sources. Overall, our measure would be give a more accurate analysis of how people are doing and if they are getting enough, since it has made the necessary adjustments to include cost of living, government benefits, and what people's well-being. And here are our citations.